take a look at the...
Good morning and good afternoon. This is the Reconstruction District CFA. It's the audio to the CFA. Big question, was Reconstruction a success or failure? All right, here's question number 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and the subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens of the U.S., nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. 14th Amendment, Section 1, U.S. Constitution. This amendment was adopted in 1868 primarily to 1. Protect the rights of formerly enslaved persons. 2. Make it easier for immigrants to become citizens. 3. Extend suffrage, which means voting, to settlers on the Great Plains. 4. Require the federal government to pay off the cost of Reconstruction. Moving on to the next one. What is the main idea of this cartoon from the Reconstruction era? All right. Here are the choices. 1. Is this political cartoon representative of sharecropping with an economic burden for women after the Civil War? 2. Military force was necessary to stop Southern secession. 3. United States soldiers forced women in the South to work in factories. Or 4. Southern society was oppressed by radical Republican policies. All right, here's the third question based on some more political cartoons. According to the cartoonist, African Americans have made gains in racial equality. In what area of equal rights do African Americans still face challenges? So this was the past, coming out of the hole of racial equality. This is the present, economic inequality. Is it choice 1, religious and civil opportunities? Is the answer number 2, education and literacy opportunities? Is it 3, financial and business opportunities? Or 4, public speaking and social opportunities? Moving on to question number 4. Slavery throughout the United States was permanently abolished by the 1. Approval of Republican Party platform of 1860. 2. Ratification in the Constitution of the United States. 3. Adoption of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Or 4. Issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation. Moving on to the next one. Laws that establish literacy tests, poll taxes, and grandfather clauses were passed by Southern states to do what? 1. Raise money to rebuild the South after the Civil War. 2. Limit the rights of formerly enslaved persons. 3. Improve the education of U.S. citizens. Or 4. Support the radical Republicans. Next question. After the Civil War, the sharecropping system emerged in the South primarily as a way to 1. Diversify agriculture production. 2. Provide a labor supply to plantation owners. 3. Give 40 acres of land to freedmen. Or 4. Guarantee economic equality for African Americans. Next question, Speaker A. Secession from the Union caused a war, and all those supported it and must now be punished. Speaker B. The nation's wounds will heal most likely if we forgive the Southerners and welcome them back into the Union. Speaker C. The freedmen must be given economic assistance and guarantee the constitutional right to protect themselves. And Speaker D. The war may have ended, but the fight must continue to preserve the system of white supremacy in the South. I need to go back and paste in the question. That would be helpful, but I'm very familiar with this assessment, and the question's going to be as follows. Who most likely is speaking from the viewpoint of Speaker B? The nation's wounds will heal most quickly if we forgive the Southerners and welcome them back into the Union. Who made that statement? Is it 1, Abe Lincoln, 2, carpetbaggers, 3, Thaddeus Stevens, or 4, a member of the KKK? All right. Next, the separate but equal principle established by the Supreme Court in Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896 resulted in the 1, elimination of Jim Crow laws, 2, forced integration of the South in schools in the South, 3, loss of citizenship for African Americans, or 4, continuation of racial segregation, separation. All right, and now we have some short answer responses. First one, what is one similarity and one difference regarding the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments? So you got to look at the amendments down here in the chart. How are they all the same? One example. And how are they all different? One example. You could type that right in here in the bottom. Now we have a chart on sharecropping. How would the sharecropping cycle affect the sharecropper? All right, so you got to go ahead and look at these different examples. For example, landowner provides land, seed, and tools to the sharecropper in exchange for a large share of the harvest crop. 2, sharecroppers purchase supplies from landowners, store on credit, often high interest rates. 3, the sharecropper plants and harvests the crop. 4, the landowner sells the crop and takes a predetermined share. The sharecropper's portion of the crop is worth less than the amount owed to the landowner. And number 5, sharecropper must promise the landowner a larger share of the next year's crop and becomes trapped in the never-ending cycle of debt. Okay? So you have to answer the question, how would the sharecropper cycle affect the sharecropper? All right, and here's the last one. Using geographical context, why would these laws be found mainly in the southern part of the United States? White Southerners sought to halt blacks from voting and influencing the law. In order to do this, several voting restrictions were put into place. Here are some examples. First one, literacy test. In order to vote, people were asked to read a text. Whites might be given a short phrase, while uneducated blacks were required to read and interpret the preamble to the Constitution. 2, poll tax. A fee would be charged to vote. Few African Americans had money to spend on voting. And last but not least, a grandfather clause. Since poor, uneducated whites often failed literacy tests and could not afford the poll tax, grandfather clauses were created to allow them to vote. Grandfather clauses stated that you did not have to pay the poll tax or take a literacy test if your grandfather voted in the past, because he could teach you the voting process. Since blacks could never vote before the time period, they could not claim this exemption. Okay, so back to the original question after the information on the literacy test, poll tax, and grandfather clause. Why would these laws be found mainly in the South? It's an inference question. There's a reason why, and then go ahead and type that down here. Okay, good luck with that. That's the audio. If you need any help during the exam, I'm sure Mr. Pope or Mr. Parnell will be more than happy to assist you. Good luck.